Hey guys, it's me Dragon, and today I'll do Who Should You Pull edition for 3.8. This is probably the last one before Fontaine come or 4.0, so this time about Klee, Eula, Wonder, or even Kokomi. As usual, also I will cover should you pull for the early constellation or the weapon or just skip them. And also I will cover a little bit that is it like any character that worth pulling this time or just wait for Fontaine. So yeah, I'll also discuss a little bit. So let's get started. So let's start first with Klee, which is the adorable character. The good about her is that first she's technically a good pyro DPS, especially if you want to play in the mono pyro, just because she is pyro catalyst, so you can pretty much get a constant pyro application in there. That's why she's pretty much can doing kind of better in the mono pyro, but still you can use in term of in kind of peperize and either reaction. It's just like mono pyro usually a little bit better. And other than that, she's technically generally good in term of role of as a pyro player, just because she's catalyst, so she can constantly do a pyro like elemental damage, right? So yeah, if you need like a character with the role of a pyro player, then yeah, Klee can be one of them. And third is that adorable. I already mentioned. I know people always want to pull Klee just because she's very good and whatever. Then yeah, I think that's the charm of Klee itself. And yeah, the bad thing about Klee is that basically it's not really that much, but it's very impactful. Which is first we have a lot of alternative for pyro unit, because if you count again, if you want a light Klee, then what? Yanfei. Xiangling is very good as a 4-star. Another 5-star, like a lot, also like Diluc until Hutao. So because of that, we have a lot of alternative that makes feel Klee less important or kinda less kinda like urgency to pull or feel like kinda like whatever to for you then. And then second is that because of that, it just make the competition in Pyro just so tight and just yeah makes Klee very overshadowing here. And yeah, Huta we know just like dominated in terms of on-field DPS, and most of the people also just use Xiangling, so Klee always just overshadowing here. So because of that, it just never makes Klee like give a prioritized choice for you to choose. And the last one is like Klee pretty much have clunky gameplay, and yeah, it's kind of personal taste. So if you don't feel as a clunky gameplay, then you should not bother with this though, because for me it kind of clunky just because it feels slow and sometimes you hold and it's kind of like take the energy so long. So yeah, that's my only personal stuff. I feel it's clunky. And now we move to the reason for you to pull Klee though. First, if you really like the character gameplay, just because I feel Klee the most selling point is just because they're adorable, and if you really like that Klee as a figure, then yeah, pull though, because she's still pretty much a good unit though. But the main drive that I feel you want to pull is you really like that character though. And second, if you probably pyro man, you really like kind of mono pyro, whatever defense or kind of like pyro stuff, then yeah, I think Klee should be a good addition in your team though. And lastly, if you still need like a main DPS, then if you really like Klee, then I think it's fine though for you to pull though. And the reason for you to skip or not pull Klee is that first, if you already have more than 4 main DPS, then I suggest you to not pull Klee, just because you will end up bench Klee unless like you really want to bench another character, which is I kind of feel is waste. So especially kind of free to play or still kind of new player, then I don't suggest you for you to pull though if you already have more than 4 main DPS. And second, if you need sub DPS or off field like pyro unit, then don't pull for Klee, because Klee doesn't have a good feature for as a off fielder though. If you want off-fielder, then Xiangling though, not her though. And then the last one, if you only aim for meta character, meta team or whatever, sadly Klee it's not meta though. So if you aim for meta only, then Klee is not your choice. Now we move to the Eula. I think this is one of the most anticipated characters just because her run took over 1 year. So we talk like the good about her stuff. First, she's basically the stronger physical unit, because basically we don't have any like much like physical unit, so Eula is still the top though. So basically she can deal also high burst damage, like if you kind of do all this like stack and whatever, she can deal like almost 1 million if you wail something. Like her burst damage is basically very high though. That's why in term of the Screenshot DPS, if you really like to do showcase, she's very good though. She gives the satisfying feeling for you though. Because every single time I play Eula, whenever I use burst, I just want to see how much damage that she can deal. Sometimes in my case can deal like 300, 400k though, and that's not even fully infested or fully built just because my artifact is sax though. But that's still very good to see. So it gives you the satisfying moment though. It's very good for screenshot DPS or showcase thingy though, if you want though. And the next one that she can ignore elemental reaction except super contact though, just because if you play physical you can just like don't need to care about reaction. The last one, if you well, then she is very good though, because her C6 is basically one of the best C6 though. If you have that, basically I don't think you'll have any problem though, just because her C6 is very good though. And the bad about Eula is that first you really need high investment if you want to improve your Eula by a lot, just because in order for you to get a significant improvement from Eula, it's either from weapon, constellation, or even artifact though. So if you didn't dedicate on those things, which is some of them involve money even, that's more ridiculous, and it's pretty much hard for your Eula to grow though. It's very different than other characters that like relying on element that can benefit with the multipliers, but Eula cannot get that because she literally just pure physical, which is pure raw power though, which is that means like pure money power or pure artifact luck though. And second is that a lot of enemy, basically if you play let's say spiral base or kind of hard content, they are kind of resist to physical, let's say the mechanical stuff, usually they resist to the physical. And also agile enemy, it's pretty hard for you to get your stack though, and stack is pretty much what Eula needs for the burst. So if they keep moving, your Eula burst damage cannot hide though, because just because you don't get enough stack, so it's pretty much kind of disadvantage for Eula. And third, if you miss your burst, your burst didn't crit, then you probably need to restart though, just because you will lose a lot of time though if your Eula didn't crit though. So if you are not really patient player that don't want to keep restarting, then Eula maybe don't really like Eula probably. And the last one, she's pretty much kinda lack of team variations, just because until right now only Mika is addition though, and that's only optional, not even making better. If you still have your old team, then pretty much yeah, that's the only team that you need to play then. So, and now we move to the reason why you should pull Eula. Is that first, if you like the character or gameplay, then sure, just pull for her though. Basically, she's still pretty good though, and we don't know when she will get rerun again, because apparently she feels so rare right now. So if you really like her, then yeah, feel free to just pull for her though. And second, if you really enjoy and you want to see high damage in one shot like that, then I suggest for you to pull Eula, because Eula is one of the characters that give high burst damage, and not so much character that can do that. Like I think right now like only Raiden, Wu Tao, and Eula that can do that though, because most of the other characters like let's say Ayaka, Al-Hitam, they did a lot of damage, but most of them is their damage is kind of spread like 20k, 20k, 50k, 50 something, so cannot get like 1 million, 500k, 400k like that. So if you kind of want to see like that in one shot, then yeah, I suggest for you to pull though. And third, if you don't like to play an elemental reaction, then probably Eula though, especially if you have a lot of money in your pocket, then sure you can just ignore elemental reaction, just unga bunga. The last one, if you want to well until C6, then yeah, I suggest to pull Eula. She's one of the characters that worth to pull until C6. Now we move to the reason for you to skip Eula is first, if you're free to play with limited resource, let's say you don't have so much more anymore, you don't have like primo gems, you don't have so much like talent books or XP books, and you want to save something that kind of low investment that but dealing a lot of damage, then Eula is not one of it, sadly, just because in order for you to build Eula properly or get like a good amount of damage, you really need at least like the max level 90 with like at least talent 8 or even 9 or even crown, a good weapon, high attack. So it's pretty much drain you a lot of resource also, and because of that I don't think it's a good choice for you if you only limited like to pull in Eula. And also you need dedication to farm like high CV critical like damage rate for Eula, also perfect artifacts compared to like Nahida, you just put EM that you can ignore the crit if you want. It's very low investment. And second, if you already have more, then 4 main DPS, then I don't even suggest you though, just because you will end up benching though Eula, because you cannot use as off-fielder, right? And third, if you want to clear like hard content easily as a Spiral Abyss and you are only Spender or even non-well, I suggest don't, because yeah, you can pretty much can clear, but you have hard time probably just keep restarting or kind of molding for a while. That will be end up wasting your time even though you can clear. And lastly, if you need a cryo unit, please don't pull for Eula, just because Eula is basically physical unit just in shape of cryo, so her true nature is still physical. So if you need a cryo unit that kind of, let's say, freeze or melt, just pull, let's say, Ayaka or whatever other character like Ganyu. It's still better than Eula. Eula still in physical. And now we move to the third character, which is Wanderer or Scaramouche, whatever you want to call. The good about him is that first, he's technically a good main DPS, pretty much he deal a decent amount of damage. And second, his gameplay is pretty much unique because she can fly, the only character that can do that, and have a lot of fraction, normal attack, like charge attack. It's pretty kinda unique though for me. And third, he's the best in terms of exploration, beating Kazuha. And you know, Sumeru lately is so painful, it's like kinda desert basically. Scaramouche can help a lot in here. I don't know in Fontaine, but I believe Scaramouche is still helpful in here also. And lastly, he's pretty much good for mobile enemy, meaning like the enemy that keep moving, he's pretty much can good though. Especially like say you give example like Thunder Manifestation that keep moving like that. Yeah, I think Scaramouche can or Wanderer can pretty much can deal that pretty easily though. And the bad about Wanderer, not that much but very impactful for me, which is first, you need high investment if you want to make your Wanderer team to be optimal or dealing like very optimal or very good amount of damage. Just because most of the case we want to make your Wanderer into mono animal. I know there's some variation that you put Xiangling in there or whatever, but it's still in the format of mono animal. And one of the components very important, which is Faruzan. And Faruzan is one of the character that you need C6 to, because most of the case you will have like energy recharge pro and so on, something like that. So C6 Faruzan is pretty much necessary. It's very different than Kujo Sara or Goro that you don't need C6, but Faruzan really need. So because of that, the investment pretty much you kinda makes very high, because getting C6 Faruzan is not cheap. And also, if order for you to improve your mono animal is just from raw power also, which is weapon, constellation, or artifacts, because reaction not that much that can like help in the mono like animal. So because of that, yeah, it's pretty much can make a high investment, but most of the majority just because C6 Faruzan the main problem is actually. And the next one, the auto aim can be annoying, because I do a couple trials for Wanderer in different mode in event. I have hard time sometimes to aiming certain enemy though. So because Genshin Impact you cannot select enemy to attack, so the auto aim can be like sucks and you end up aiming the wrong enemy, and that can be annoying for me though. But if you can anticipate that, then that should be no problem then. And now we move to the reason for you to pull Wanderer. First, if you like the character and gameplay, I know Wanderer is very popular, so if you like and you like also the gameplay also, just feel free to pull, you will find. And second, if you're fan of mono animal, then sure you can pull though, because like not that much mono animal variation, right? So if you want to add more variation, then you can pull for Wanderer. And third, if you new player who struggle in exploration, although this is not priority, but if you really like trouble in exploration and you kind of want to make it a lot easier, then Wanderer actually is one of the solution though. So if you really need it though. And the last one, if you need a good main DPS, then yeah, Wanderer pretty much still a relatively good main DPS. So if you need, feel free to pull. And the reason for you to skip Wanderer, which is first, if you're free to play with limited resource, or you just want a minimal investment character, then don't pull for Wanderer. This is actually same with Eula, just because Wanderer is relying on kinda like raw power, which is like animal. Yeah, animal still have a little bit like swirl reaction with things too, but in mono like animal, most of the case is not about swirl, which is still relying on raw power. And the most like ridiculous, you need C6 Faruzan in order to make like optimal, then the investment of the character in Wanderer is not cheap at all though. So if you want something that kinda cheap, then of course it's no Wanderer, so don't pull. And second, if you already have more than 4 main DPS, then you don't need to pull Wanderer, just because you can end up bench unless you really like, of course that's the exception. So yeah, and you cannot make like Wanderer as an off-field though, it's just pure on-field, so it can be waste if you already have more than 4 main DPS. And third, if you need buffer, let's say like Kazo or Sucrose, then don't. Please don't. Because Wonder, yeah, have some passive that can boost like your party damage, something like that, but in the end it's not as a buffer. His true nature still as a main DPS. The true buffer is still Kazo or Sucrose in terms of animals, so don't pull if you just want as a buffer. And the last one, if you want meta, then don't pull for Wanderer, because Wanderer is technically not meta, although his damage is decent, but he's not meta still, at least in my standard. And the last character, which is Kokomi, the leader of Watatsumi Island. The good about her is that first, she's pretty much a good healer and good hydro player, especially if you want to play in Taser, Bloom, or Freeze team, then she can become a good additional slot in your party. And second, she is also flexible in terms of team building, just because she's healer, so whenever you need a figure of a healer, then you can just put Kokomi in there though. Even in Geo, Kokomi can fit in there, just because if you need healing, then Kokomi can become like additional slot in there. And other than that, she provide like as an off-field like hydro application that also makes more versatile though. And the third, she's pretty much very easy in terms of build and very low investment. If you want to give the artifact basically just healing bonus, HP, you in terms of subset, you can just ignore like crit damage, which is the hardest like stat to get also, which is it helped you by a lot. And even though you don't need really high level, only level 80 is already enough, and she already heal a lot. And if you want to make like Kokomi in Dendro, just put anything in M, you can ignore crit also. And yeah, everything's very low investment. And lastly, she can become a tank basically. So let's say you don't really good at dodge, and you know this character can deal a lot of damage on certain attack, you can swap Kokomi first in there and just receive the damage, and you search like swap back to your main DPS though, so you sacrifice your Kokomi again though, and you don't have to worry because you can heal again with your Kokomi, right? So yeah, she can become a tank though if you don't really good at dodging though. And the bad about Kokomi is at first, usually 5-star healer always feel very less and the bad about Kokomi is at first, 5-star healer always feel less important or just feel whatever, feeling like very optional. Same vibe like Baiju, just because it's like in Genshin Impact, healer doesn't really get a spotlight, and like the main hardest content in the combat, which is Spiral Abyss, the main important things in Spiral Abyss is actually DPS, not healing actually. In fact, if you can just like avoid every single attack and you're very good at dodging, you don't even need healer anymore though. So because of that, make healer feel like less important, that pulling like 5-star character waste a lot of your resource to just get a healer feels a little bit waste. And most of the case in healer slot, we only need 2, 1 and 1, you don't need that much. In the end, we kind of want to prioritize like kind of sub DPS or main DPS, kind of Hutao, Kazuha, Yelan or Nahida, something like that though. And second, which is basically, Kokomi have a lot of alternative, which is Barbara, the same even element, and healing still very good job. And if you want to play in Bloom, then Yaoyo can provide a good job also, and can be a good substitute in terms of Kokomi in terms of in the Nilo team though. So you don't even need Kokomi, and Yaoyo is what 4-star, even more accessible. And in terms of Taser, you can even ignore Kokomi. You just put Shincho though. Unless you want to play Sukokomon, then that's only the different case, but they still doing a like same job. Now we move to the reason for you to pull Kokomi. First, if you need a flexible character, then yeah, feel free to pull Kokomi though. Just because technically if you need like any like healer slot in your party, then you can just put Kokomi in there. And other than that, Kokomi is not only over here as a healer, but he also can get like give you buff. Let's say you push 4 piece of tenacity of Millilith, it can give you attack buff though. Also another than that, if you put like TTDS like Thrilling Tales Dragon, it can buff also your attack though. So even though your element you don't need the Hydro in there, you can still put, let's say in the Geo team, you can put Kokomi in there. And second, if you need a good Hydro player or healer, then sure, you can pull for Kokomi just because she heal a lot and she doing a very good job in terms of off-field Hydro, then yeah, you can pull for her. And third, if you main in terms of Freeze or Dendro related team, especially in Bloom or Taser also, then yeah, you can consider Kokomi to pull just because she performed a very good job in there. That's the main highlight of Kokomi. She's doing a very good job in those teams. Lastly, the reason for you to skip Kokomi is that first, if you need more DPS in your team, then don't pull for Kokomi. Kokomi only help you in terms of healing. She will not help you whatever in terms of improving your DPS, and that's the main thing most of the case in Genshin Impact player though. So if you still lack of DPS, just ignore Kokomi. Pull just another character like Kazuha, Nahida, or Hutao, Ayaka, Alhaitham, or whatever that need more DPS to win there. And the second one, this is actually not the reason to skip, but it's kind of only advice that just don't go with over 100 pulls or kind of like waste your kind of guaranteed in order for you to get Kokomi. Unless you just get lucky, then sure. Just because I feel like DPS is still more important, especially if you don't have a complete DPS yet, then I still suggest you to not waste your kind of pulls just to get healer, because in the end, healer you will always get a lot of alternatives. So because of that, I don't think she worth more than 100 pull, although she's actually a very good character though. And then lastly, if you already have Barbara or even Yao Yao, you may can consider also to skip Kokomi. So for Klee, should you pull for early constellation or weapon? Basically, I have mixed feeling regarding Klee's weapon, which is Lost Prayer though. Lost Prayer is not a bad weapon, it's technically a good weapon, but it's not a limited weapon though. It's not exclusive at all because you always have chance to get Lost Prayer though. First, you can get in the standard banners if you keep wish, and you may also have chance to get Lost Prayer every single time though. And then if you pull like in the weapon banner and let's say you have a bad luck, you lose your 75%, you may also have chance to get Lost Prayer though. So it's just matter of time though. So that's why I always want to suggest you to always to just pull like Klee Constellation no matter what, if you just want to improve your Klee. But in term, if you just want me to rank based on value, then I would say if you aiming for to go for C2 for your Klee, then yeah, I feel still better than Lost Prayer, just because Jumpty Dumpty, when you hit the opponent, you can reduce the defense by 23% for 10 seconds, which is good, and you also get the advantage from this one also. But if you just aim for C1, then I don't feel it's better than weapon. So I think if I just want to rank, C2 still better than weapon, but weapon still better than C1. So for you, usually pull for early constellation or the weapon. Basically, it's very depend on the situation. So first, if you don't have any 5-star Claymore, let's say either Wolf Gravestone or Skyward Pride, then I really suggest you to just pull for Song of Broken Spines though. But if you already have, let's say, Wolf Gravestone or Skyward Pride, then I suggest you to just pull for the C1, just because C1 is technically a very good constellation and you can only get like early though. And rare a character that good at C1, usually they good at C2, but this one, it's C1 actually very good, just because if you your Grim Heart stack consume, your physical damage increased by 30% for 6 seconds. This is actually very good though for just early C1 though. Rare a constellation that good. So if you already have 5-star, let's say Wolf Grayson or Skyward Pride, then I suggest to just pull C1 though. So if I have to rank, then the priorities is weapon, C1, and C2 will be the last. So for Wanderer, should you pull for early constellation or weapon? Basically, Wanderer can equip a lot of different weapons. Just because of that, I feel like going for constellation is always better for Wanderer. If you think again, like the 5-star, that Lost Prayer is actually very good for Wanderer itself because it's on field, and Skyward Atlas is still relatively good for also for Wanderer, just increase the elemental damage also. And with it, even as a 4-star, is still very good because every single like evac there can be benefit for Wanderer. So because of that, I feel like makes the weapon it's not really that priority. So I always want you to just go for constellation. But if I just want to rank in terms of pet or value that you should go, then if you're aiming for go to C2, then yeah, I feel still better than going for the weapon, just because you will get like more damage in here, and also you still get damage in here though. But if you just aiming for C1, then I don't think it's better than weapon. So if I have to rank, then C2, weapon, and C1 is the last priority though. So for Kokomi, should you pull for early constellation or weapon? Basically for me, neither both of them that you should pull. For me, they kind of wasteful for you to pull, just because Kokomi already good as hero without like any 5-star weapon or either like constellation. Just because I feel the weapon is up, it's technically quite good for Kokomi. It can makes like her on-field damage become higher, but Kokomi again is a healer, so giving like more damage in healer basically not really contribute you a lot though. And Constellation 1 basically pretty okay to increase your damage, but it's only increase your damage for the final normal attack, which is I rarely use my Kokomi until like final like attack though like that. Usually only 1 2 3 I kinda skip or dodge whatever like that. So it's pretty much, yeah, still can be useful if you use until final normal attack, but most of the case can be wasteful also. C2 basically only increase your healing, which is Kokomi already heal a ton when you are C0, and this one just make a lot overheal. So in the end, I feel like pulling neither weapon or constellation is kind of wasteful. But if you really want or really like Kokomi, then you should pull for the weapon first. Then if you want, then C1. Then if I have to rank, C2 basically just done for me. It's just very less priority though. Conclusion or verdict, if you ask me which one should you pull in 3.8, honestly I would say among all these for this character, no one of them that I will pull, just because I feel like most of this character that is good, but they just feel optional to pull though, which is will not really so much benefit for you though. But if I have to choose one, then probably Kokomi. I think Kokomi is the best just because he's just flexible, and some of the teams he will make better, let's say in freeze. Yeah, then she can pretty much can good addition in there. But in the end, also I feel Kokomi is not really super that worthy, just because also the next patch most probably is Fontaine, which is 4.0, and soon also we may see Folklore or the Hydro Icon also that will come soon. So I feel like this patch just feels kind of trapped or just feels just only fan service. So the reason for you to pull this kind of character in 3.8, if you just really like them or you just really like the gameplay of this character. But other than that, I always suggest you to just skip for just Fountain character though in the future though. So pretty much that's it for my video. If you like, feel free to hit the subscribe button and like, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.